Hello and welcome to the Hobby Breakfast Show, kicking off your morning or afternoon as we publish it in the afternoon with Hobby Chat. Today you're joined by myself, the Mayor, and Onod.
Hello.
And OT.
Hello.
And today we're going to be investigating the perfect starter kit. We have got a list of the existing MESBG starter kits and we will be crafting our own. So it'll be interesting to see what we each come up with. Is it going to be fluffy? Is it going to be stupid? Probably both. Who knows? So join us in that up and coming. But first, some hobby. Who's going to go first?
Onod.
Do I have to?
Yeah.
Oh,
You're legally obligated.
I'll have to wait until I send you the fucking link then, won't I?
Oh, lol, thank you.
Lol. Yes. Hello. I did some stuff this month. This month I have painted, 2 Space Marines. Don't ask me why. It just
Why?
happened. Well, you two bought me one of them, and then I was like, kind of felt like painting another one, so I got one on eBay, and that's basically. Do
you think he would be lonely by himself?
Yeah, that was my main concern. So I got him.
He's got a battle brother now.
Yes. Every word you say makes me want to throw them in the bin more. I also painted 2 Rohan on horse for a tournament.
Ooh, how did that tournament go?
Badly.
Couldn't have gone much worse.
For some of us.
It was. I played Azog 3 times out of 4 games.
Yeah.
With Grimbold. Not Grimbold, the other one.
With Helm Hammerhand, easily confused. They're both
Yep.
men from Rohan.
Yeah, they're all the same.
And then in my other match, I played Dwarfs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't play them very often, do I?
No.
So yeah, it just continues the trend of every time I go to a tournament, I play just one type of army for the entire thing and massively regret my life decisions.
Yeah. It's also tends to be an
mandatory
army that's quite good against your army.
Yeah. Helm basically being unable to do much because he has a fight 7 opponent is frustrating.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Still.
'Cause it's balanced, isn't it? Anyway, so I built and painted at the very beginning of this month 3 Elder Scrolls skeletal archers. Oh, they bony. And they have bows. And I also built and painted 8 ghosty Viking boys.
The Draug.
They're ghosty,
The Droogies.
not the Draugr. No, they
No,
were
not the Draugr.
They were last month. And then I painted a Napoleonic horse artillery piece from Warlord's epic Waterloo range.
Is that the only miniature you have from that range?
Nope. I have painted one earlier this year that featured on the podcast, but I appreciate you remembering.
So you have two miniatures from that range, is that right?
Painted, yeah.
OT, what have you been up to this month?
A rather eclectic collection. Again, I do this actually quite a lot. I tend not to paint one thing. I tend to paint lots of small amounts of one thing. So the thing I did first was finish off my 212th clone squads from last week. So these are just from the starter set. These are some phase 1 clones and Obi-Wan and most of the clones I did last week. And then I just did 4 this week. I've kind of enjoyed painting them, to be honest. I'm kind of dithering between Empire and Republic for my next Legion army. And I'm just doing a little bit of both at the moment as I pick which one I want to do. So on the Empire side, I just did 9 snowtroopers. The idea of the list is it's like based around Hoth and potentially the Emperor as well. So to go with the Royal Guard, I've just given them all a bit of a red tint. I don't think it's worked super well, if I'm being honest. Like, they didn't look exactly how I wanted them to, but I think it would look better than if I just left them all plain white, but maybe not. I don't really know. So
I think they look good.
Okay, thank you. And what else have I done? I've done 2 Rebel Troopers, which were ones I needed for the tournament I went to. Video coming soon. And yeah, enjoyed painting those. I think like the Rebels have been really good to paint because they've got quite a nice naturey color scheme and they're just pretty straightforward. Like lots of quite nicely defined detail, and nothing too small and fiddly, which is nice. And then some more stuff for a tournament that's upcoming. I painted my 4 remaining models that I've got for Thorin's company. So this is Dwalin, Nori, Hilly, and Ori, all on pony.
I
So
could feel you face palming there, trying to remember their names.
yeah. So unfortunately, I don't have Dwalin and Bofa. No, not Dwalin. Gloin. I don't have Gloin and Bofa because I had to sacrifice them for my Thorin conversion for Thorin on Goat, for my Power Gaming Erebor Reclaimed list. So I don't have the full contingent, and I'm not going to buy a 3rd copy of Thorin's company just to get those 2 in. So I think they will never be part of my lists. And then finally, I've begun work on my British 8th Army. I've painted up I think just shy of 20, and I've had to go at basing some of them. The first ones I did with the basing materials I had available, so I just did them with sort of mud and a few like sandy rocks on top, which I don't think looks super good. And then I've done another batch with some basing, some proper basing stuff that arrived from Wayland, and I think these ones look much more how I wanted them to look, so I think I'm going to stick with that. And
Nice.
finally, not to be last but not least, but definitely least in height, I've done, is it Ted, Sandyman, and Lotho from the Shire. Basically, I bought these a while ago when I was trying to get a Forge World order up to the price for delivery. And then because I've got ruffians now, I can add them to my army if I ever bother taking it to a tournament. I quite enjoyed painting these, to be fair. Like they're quite nice little models. They got like the book and the little hammer and stuff. Looks quite cool. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. It did seem like a random choice at the time, but
yeah, well, it feels like a random choice now, to be honest. Like I don't know how much usage they're going to see, if I'm being perfectly honest.
But so they're painted. That's all that matters.
Mayor, what have you done?
Well, I have painted some Gandalfs. 3 Gandalfs to be exact. Gandalf on cart, Gandalf on horse, and Gandalf on foot. I have also painted 6 Bros and Badgers miniatures, a wildcat, fox, 3 mice, and a rat, which sounds like some kind of should really be in a song or something weird. That was it, really. So not very much, but I have been doing some back reps and some editing, which is I didn't manage to do last month, but have done this month. And of course, we went to a tournament. So we had a busy hobby other than painting, but I think I've still beaten most months that I've done painting. So I'm still happy.
So it's progress.
It's progress. I seem to have. I think because I really struggled to. Well, I'm currently mid painting some Amazonians, and I think they should be done. Fingers crossed by the end of next month. In which case, I'll have at least done a Blood Bowl team, and then I might move on to a kill team or some. What's the other thing that I've got to do? Oh, action. That's it.
Yeah,
do some. Don't start listing them off because we'll be here all day. I meant the imminent ones.
I see. Some of them are more imminent than others.
Yeah. That's it, really. So,
cool.
Should we move on to our main section?
Our main item.
Why are we doing this, OT? I'll let you explain.
I don't really
we
know.
Needed content ideas.
I think the reasons are fairly transparent and obvious. So essentially, I was like just spitballing ideas, and I think it was one we wrote down on the document a while ago. So I just had a look.
Yeah.
We believe it or not, there is a planning document for this this shit show, and
it's very poorly
not
planned
in use anymore.
Ironically,
yeah, and you'll tell by the sort of decreasing quality of the ideas how desperate it's getting. So basically, what I did is I put together a little bit of information on the previous starter kits, and then we've got a few initial ideas for what maybe future starter kits could look like. But I think we're just gonna have a go today at maybe designing what a realistic future starter kit could look like, and then maybe what like our dream starter kit might look like if we could make one fully ourselves. Shall I intro the two previous kits and talk about those, and then we just go on to our ones?
When you say two previous, do you mean like, are we doing starter kits like before the new version of the game, or are we just doing new version of the game?
So the two I've put in are the Pelennor and Battlefrost Gileath, because that's what I've got in mind for a starter kit.
Okay, should we also talk about Goblin Town and Balin's Tomb?
We can do.
We might as well. It'll make the video longer.
I mean, a longer video isn't strictly a better video.
I think it is.
Okay. I don't have any information on either of those.
Balin's Tomb was a box of Warrior Goblins, a plastic cave troll, and the plastic fellowship sets. Goblin Town was Scribe, King, Grinner, Captain, Goblins, Goblin Town scenery, and Thorin's company.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, and Balin's Tomb came with a little Balin's Tomb terrain kit sprue as well.
And what a terrain kit for the tomb? Oh, it was just the tomb itself, wasn't it? And
tomb, like some columns, and yeah,
even some columns. Okay, fair enough. God, weird what passed for terrain back in the day. I suppose you can't really have anything else for Balin's Tomb, can you?
Yeah, a tricky one, isn't it?
Which of these do we think is best? So we've got I guess Balin's Tomb came out first.
Yeah.
Then would it be Pelennor next, and then Goblin Town, or was it the other way around?
No, Goblin Town, Pelennor.
Goblin Town, Pelennor, and then Osgiliath. Which do we think is best?
Balin's Tomb was best value because it was £50.
But would it be best value with inflation? When did it come out?
Oh, I'll get the inflation calculator out.
Well, that's what I used on the Pelennor one as well, and it turns out they're very similar. What year did it come out?
Do you love the Bank of England inflation calculator?
It's so bleak.
I think it came out in about 2005-ish.
Oh, so it's probably like £200 now.
So £50 in 2005 cost £84.50 now, so it's still actually cheaper.
Yeah. Okay.
But definitely not as good value.
No.
But people were relatively better off back then, so actually the point still stands.
Okay, we're going a bit off brand here.
No, I think unnecessary levels of detail is kind of the brand, isn't it?
Kind of our thing. Okay, let's put them in order from worst to best. Which one was the worst, and why was it Goblin Town?
Are you trying to make a tier list?
No, I'm not. I'm not having that.
My
I like
brain
Goblin
is broken,
Town.
and it's the only way it knows how to understand information.
Hobbit starter kit was the worst in terms of theme. Probably not the worst in terms of. Or was it the worst in terms of starter kit? I don't know how fun Thorin's Company versus Goblin Town is as a starter kit.
It's probably not that fun to play if you're playing. To be honest, either of those, because you just get surrounded, and then what else can you do? You just have to fight. Right?
I think that suggests it's not a good starter kit then.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I am Team Goblin, but I can agree with that.
I think in terms of value, Pelennor was the best. Just in terms of
actual value,
sheer like how much you got in a box. It was like have every sprue that we've made in plastic in a single box for like £100, wasn't it?
Yeah. So Pelennor was Theoden with, I think, an entire box of Warriors of Rohan, entire box of Riders, and Army of the Dead. And then for the Mordor side, you got Witch King, Troll, and 36 Morannon Orcs. So you got like, I think it was like
and the rules manual,
and the rules manual, and a dice and a ruler, and you didn't get any terrain. But I think it was like a 550 to 600 point army you basically got. Battlefrost Gileath is like 350 points of stuff, but you do get terrain thrown in and stuff like that.
Did you say that you got 12 Riders of Rohan?
I think you got a box. I don't know if it was.
No, you got 12.
We got 12, so 2 boxes. So
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's pretty crazy.
You got 12 riders and 12 on foot. So the dismounts, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for me, I'd put like Goblin Town at the bottom, then Balin's Tomb, then Osgiliath, and then Pelennor would be the order I'd put them in.
I think I personally prefer Balin's Tomb to the new one, but other than that, I agree.
I think Pelennor is the peak for me. Like, I think that's just if for starting the hobby, I feel like that's such a good way to just like get everything you need to get started.
You instantly have an army of Rohan and a more resort army, and you just need the army of the Dead King. You've got an army there too.
Yeah.
So pretty good.
Yeah, I think I agree.
So moving on to like if we were to like cherry pick the best bits for these, so first off, I think we'd need to let's do the realistic one first, and then let's like raise our aspirations later. If you were to like start, I guess, does it have to come from a movie scene? Do you think it has to be themed around a big movie scene, or?
I think so. I don't think that they're going to do anything else at this stage, are they?
Okay. So first and foremost, do you think there's anything they could do from The Hobbit? Because I noticed that none of us have written down any Hobbit ideas here.
No,
I think the only thing they could do is probably Battle of Five Armies, and that's just probably a bit much. I don't think anyone would really enjoy that.
No one would buy it.
No.
Okay, so on that basis, it has to be Lord of the Rings. And at this point, it gets a little bit more tricky, maybe, because they've already done Pelennor and Osgiliath, which were like 2 of the more iconic battles. So I think that kind of pushes you towards something to do with Rohan, or something that's a bit less central to like the plot. So maybe you're talking about Last Alliance, or I noticed somebody's written Scouring of the Shire. I'm not sure that's a great idea, but maybe
that wasn't actually me. I'd just like to point out.
Yeah, I know. I said that didn't feel like an Onod suggestion.
I haven't written anything.
Okay, so what do we think? What would be the best bet to start off the theme of the box with?
I personally think that they should go back to including a Plastic Fellowship box, and they should just update the Plastic Fellowship, and they should do Plastic Fellowship versus Uruk Scouts, Lurts, and Ugluk in a plastic 2Zs on the sprue, and that would be a realistic thing that they could do, and everyone would be happy because everyone likes the Fellowship. And everyone likes Uruk-hai.
Do they? I like the idea of like updating Fellowship, because like I think that for me that's like a complete slam dunk. Like I'd buy it even though I've already got Fellowship. Like
I'd buy it too even though I've already got Fellowship.
You've
I'm
already
a sucker.
Got so many Fellowships.
I know. I've already got I already own 2 copies of the Plastic Fellowship. And I buy another because I needed plastic Aragorns of convert, and it was cheaper to just buy most of them again.
Well, it's like why I got Plastic Thorin's Company for my Thralls list, because it's cheaper to buy Plastic Thorin's Company than it is to buy the 3-pack of Young Dwalin, Balin, and Thorin.
Yeah. And you've bought another one so that you can cut them in half and stick them on the pony, haven't you? So.
Yeah, and then I'm still missing a few, so I'm not going to buy a third, but you know,
you are,
because I'm a rambling completion. Anyway, we're off topic again. Mayor, what would you theme it around?
I like the idea of doing Scouring of the Shire. No, Last Alliance I think is probably the obvious choice, but also is simple enough and thematic, and it's the first thing you see in the Lord of the Rings, and
it would tie into Rings of Power,
and it would go with a future supplement. Hint.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think you could make it really simple. The kits are simple enough that you're pretty much sorted anyway, like Numenor with some elves, and then Sauron and just a load of orcs, I guess. I mean,
yeah.
So maybe the more Mordor contingent's a bit boring on that front. I'm not sure how you spice that up.
But then they've done a previous one with just like a big troll and stuff like that. Like I
True.
think, like although I suppose they did include Gothmog as well. To be fair, but Sauron's pretty cool and like very iconic from the films.
Yeah. So that'd be cool.
Personally, like one idea I did have was like Blackgate, but I think that's a bit tricky to pull off as well because like which heroes do you have and stuff like that. Then there's also like when Éomer attacks the Uruk scouts in Rohan to not assault on Helm's Deep, and that's maybe like would end up being a similar kit to what like Onod was describing with Breaking the Fellowship. You have like some Uruk scouts, and then Éomer and a bunch of Rides of Rohan. But maybe I don't feel like that's as iconic as the other ones we're suggesting. Great. Fuck me. Are you two okay?
I'm just gonna leave that in. That was great.
Absolute trash. For fuck's sake, I write the fucking document. Onod doesn't read it and adds nothing to it, and then just sits there.
Oh, I read it.
I'm gonna let this tank.
I read it. I just didn't add anything.
Yeah, you're not adding anything now either.
Standard.
Okay, so what does it need to include?
For which ones?
I don't care at this point.
Okay, let's bulk out the Last Alliance. I reckon you can make some pretty easily hills with cliff faces.
As terrain in.
Yeah. Bit of terrain.
Do you have to have terrain? Because I think this is an interesting discussion. Like, do you need terrain in a starter box?
No.
Well, strictly no, but I think it would be nice to have some terrain because people who've just started the game are not going to have any terrain, and it's going to be a pretty uninteresting battlefield.
Okay, so basically, I think if you compare Pelennor to Osgiliath, you can see that basically what they did is with Osgiliath, they lowered the quantity of troops you got in favor of giving you some terrain. So, like, I think if we're being realistic, in order to put in some terrain, we'd have to make sacrifices for the number of points or troops that you got. And, like, do you think that's a good sacrifice, or would you bump the price up a bit more?
I would just make it more expensive.
No, I think you should keep the starter price low.
Are we actually talking like viability here?
Yeah. So we'll do the realistic one first, and then just like the ridiculous.
I think the point in this is not to create the dream box where we just say a load of new shit we want. It's what could be a starter box and what would be a sensible one, and how should they look, rather than just listing things that we want.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, if we're doing Last Alliance, no terrain. It's got to have Sauron. It's got to have Elrond. It's got to have the bloke who cuts Sauron's finger off. Isildur.
Yeah.
It's got to have those three. Maybe throw a troll in for Sauron and a captain, and a bunch of orcs, and then some elves with swords, some elves with bows, Numenorians with swords and shields, and Numenorians with spears, and some with bows. So basically, a box of elves, a box of Numenorians, the heroes I mentioned, and
currently there are no Rivendell foot warriors in production by themselves in a plastic kit. The only box they come in is the Last Alliance box.
It's the only box they've ever come in.
Yeah, and there's no the Numenorian Spearmen come in a small pack, which I think is fine crap, or might be metal, I can't remember. But again, they don't come in a plastic box. The only ones you can get are the ones that come with sword and shield in the Last Alliance Warriors box, and they're the only plastic ones.
Okay.
So if you want to put those in, you'd have to make an entirely new plastic sprue. The other option is you put a bunch of the Last Alliance Warriors. You put the Last Alliance Warriors box in, which is like elves with elven weapon, elves with bow, and Numenorians with sword and shield.
Yep, that sounds fine. I wasn't really thinking about the production side of things, but that does make sense.
Well, I think it's more just like the models that would those models that you were suggesting like don't exist in plastic, so they'd have to
Mm.
make an entirely new sprue, which they could do, but like they'd have to make a new sprue for the starter box.
I think I think in my head, they release like a supplement alongside this box, and they have new models for those factions because they need it. The elves need it. I think the Numenorians less so, but I mean, who would say no? So plastic kits for those.
Yeah.
New plastic kits. I mean, Elrond, maybe they can make a, well, I suppose not really young Elrond, but Elrond from that era.
I think
and then
there's a foot sculpt that's meant to represent him at the last alliance with Gil-galad, and well, that's
There is,
metal.
yeah.
That's metal, unfortunately.
Remake that one in
Yeah.
a new
I mean,
sculpt.
to be fair, his foot sculpt from his solo thing might be okay. I think the bigger problem would be Isildur, because he's only in metal, whether he's in the pack with his dad or I think maybe get him by himself, but I think he's only in metal. So maybe a new plastic Isildur.
Yep. A new Sauron. That would be good. I feel like that's kind of timely as well, because the Sauron model's pretty ancient, and having all metal Sauron is kind of, I don't know, cumbersome.
Yeah.
And then the orc models are fine. Standard Mordor troll. It feels like you should be able to give Mordor something. What could we give Mordor that's like a new kit?
Grom.
I reckon some new orc captains, because that's what they really need. Or just you could make up some named orc captains from that era.
Yes, we really need more invented characters that are marginally different to the others.
Yeah.
Quite a crowded niche.
I don't know what else you put in, because unfortunately all you see is Sauron and a horde of orcs. Let's
Numenorians? But then they're only I mean, they don't exist anymore, do they really?
No. Should we look at a different one?
Let's.
I want to hear about what's it called? When that's always kills Arm and Hen. Could do an Arm and Hen one.
That's literally what I said like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, I want you to explain it.
Plastic Fellowship.
Updated.
Plastic Lurts and Ugluck.
Ooh.
One sprue. And then you just chuck in 24 Marauders. And then you make a plastic Amon Hen, and then you just package that.
Because they've already got the stupid head thing that they sold as terrain.
Yes, we'd really like that big head.
Just throw in that one for free.
For £40.
Yeah.
What they should do, actually, perfect move from Games Workshop. What they should do is they should bundle the new Fellowship, new Ugluck Alerts, new old Marauders, the new rulebook. So this would be like the hypothetical next starter set.
Yeah.
They should work out how much money you save by bundling together, and then they should just keep adding that head until you don't have any saved value other than the heads.
Brilliant.
So you're just like, you're getting 3 of these resin heads for free.
Aren't you happy?
Thank us. We'll finally be able to get rid of them from our warehouse. I imagine there's just quite a large bin of them just sort of sitting on a shelf that no one ever touches.
Yeah, it's extremely dusty already, despite only being like 3 months old. Yeah, perfect.
No, I seriously though, I think you could do that box, and it would come out even with like a plastic Amon Hen. It would still come out cheaper than the current kit, but I think that actually it would probably be way more popular, and Games Workshop would sell way more of it. And it's not like they didn't invest the equivalent. Like they had to make 2 new character kits, and they also had to make like 4 plastic terrain kits for some reason.
Yeah.
So they're willing to invest all of that into fucking Gondor stuff. I guarantee that more people would buy a kit with plastic Fellowship and plastic Amon Head, and that would probably work out to be less sprues.
Mm.
So,
I think Amon comes across pretty well. I think Last Alliance is maybe like it's maybe more likely to happen, but I think Amon Hem is arguably better.
Yeah.
Not really an army though.
I don't think it needs to be an army.
But for a starter box, it feels like GW are trying to like get you into it, the hobbies, and like collecting an army as opposed to just having the 3 hunters.
I don't think they should. I think they should encourage people to own the Fellowship because I think that's a good starting point.
And all the 7 heads they've got in their back room.
Yeah. I just feel like Lord of the Rings is about the heroes and the storytelling, and Fellowship is always the ticket to that, isn't it?
True.
Yeah. Now, I think that if Games Workshop were doing starter kits properly, and how I would do a starter kit, I think that they should go down a completely different route, basically. I think starter kits designed for 2 people are stupid.
Right. How many people? 5?
Just 1. Like, because realistically, if you buy that kit, you're either buying it for yourself, in which case you're just buying twice the stuff that you need. And if you want 2 armies, that's fine. And I'll explain later in a second. But you only end up with 1 rules manual. So then someone else is going to have to go and buy another one, assuming that you don't live in the same house. Yeah. And you aren't going to get enough dice. And, you know, it creates all those problems. And actually, I think that they're just not actually that efficient. I think people like them because they give you a big discount, but really they just like them because most people are just going to buy them and either sell the half they don't want on eBay or just collect both armies, and it's cheaper.
I think people treat them more like the battle host boxes than they do anything else.
Now, a true starter box, this is how I would do it. The discount that you get on the current starter box is about 50% off, give or take, roughly.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's difficult to value things like the booklet and the dice, but it's about that. So what I would do is I would, for 4 factions, Isengard, Rohan, Minas Tirith, and Mordor, I would make a plastic sprue the same size that the Faramir sprue is, with a generic captain, a banner bearer, and then either a horn person or a drummer, depending on if it's good or evil.
Okay.
That's £27.50.
Yes.
I would then throw in 12 regular warriors, because that's a warband. That's £15. I would then get the rules manual, and I would do a soft cover version, maybe even one of the little A5 ones. Keep costs down. You don't need to put a hardback in a starter set. It's a starter set.
Would it have like everything that the hardback does, or would it be like a more abbreviated version?
I think everything the hardback one, just make it softback so it's cheaper.
Okay.
And then what I would do is in the Gondor one, I would just reprint the pages for Gondor from the army book as a little booklet. So you give them the full rules for the faction, because it's not like people wouldn't go and buy the army book anyway. Like, it's not like 40k where you have to buy an individual codex for every army. If you want to play Lord of the Rings, you just need 1 book. So the likelihood is that if someone buys a starter box and they like it, they'll go and buy the army book anyway. So I don't think Games Workshop is like really losing out on that.
No.
You chuck in like 6 dice because you don't really need any more. You chuck in one of those shitty little measuring sticks that only goes 12 inches. Now, the reason why I would do that is because if you tallied up the cost of that and then worked it out, it would come under £50. Very reasonable place to start. And then
Yep.
what you've done is that you have the basics to play the game. You have a hero, you have a banner, you have 12 warriors to make the warband.
Mm-hmm.
And all you are doing to the players is you're saying, if you like this, you go and buy the battle host for the faction that you've bought, and your army is complete. Because you go and you get your big named hero, and you bulk out the rest of the army.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I would do it. It's cheap, people buy in very easily, it gets people into the game, low cost, they don't feel like they're having to fork out loads just to get into a game which they might not even like. They get nice new sculpts for their heroes, so that makes the older warriors less of a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you get the full rules for your faction and the rule book. That's how I'd do it personally. And I'd scrap the idea of a 2-player starter set. I don't think that they're a good idea. They might be from a business perspective, but I think for players, they incentivize people who are already in the hobby to buy them rather than genuine people who are starting.
Okay. I think that's fair. And I think, like, I personally, having recently started, like, Legion and, like, Bolt Action, it's been interesting comparing, like, the way that you start those games and the way I started SBG. And like I think Legion especially feels super accessible before you've even like spent any money, because obviously the rules are available for free online. And I do actually wonder if I'd have got as into Legion as I am if I'd had to pay up front like 40-50 quid for a rule book or whatever. And I think like that initial cost before you've emotionally invested in a game is a bigger barrier than perhaps, people who've been playing the game for a long time assume it will be.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
rules being available so that people can read up on it before
Yeah.
buying is the smart decision.
The people who are new to the game tend to do that though. I feel like they're just going to be like, oh, it's a nice game, it looks nice,
But I
almost
think,
treating it more like a board game.
but I think the mental knowledge that when you start researching it to get into it, because I think that Games Workshop probably does make a lot of money of people just walking in and going, I want to start this, show me the starter box. But I think that also that's a lot of people doing 40k. That's
Yes.
where they get their Space Marine sales. I don't think that many people walk into a GW store and say, oh, hey, that Middle Earth game, because they don't advertise it in their windows.
No.
If they do have it, it's probably on like a shelf at the back, which is rarely visited, and the store owner probably doesn't actually know how to play the game. So
And
I
there's a
think
leak in the roof that goes onto the MESBG boxes.
Yeah, so I think for a game like Middle Earth, it makes way more sense to have stuff because I think it's a sort of game that people are going to find on the internet and want to do a little bit of research about it before they buy it, rather than I have a 12-year-old son who wants to play with Space Marines, and could you just show me the cheapest way to buy some so he'll stop annoying me?
I like your version of start set. I feel like you should have to buy 2 sets though.
Why?
I suppose that defeats the whole point, isn't it?
But that's exactly my point. Like, there's no reason to buy 2 sets. Because if you're splitting it with a friend, the starter set is not good because they only give you 1 copy of the rules. So it's like you're going to have to go and buy a rulebook separately, and then you lose all of the saving because one person has to go and buy one for full price.
The other thing is, with Onod's starter set, is like existing players who are getting into a new faction would probably pick it up as well because it's got the bits you might use for like a Gondor army and whatever for that. Whereas like I feel like the current starter kits, unless you're looking like quite specifically for those 2 factions, they're not super useful. So even like doubling the number of factions available and just making them fairly commonly used troops would probably make it more accessible as well.
Yeah. We should talk about what we would make if we could make any crazy thing.
But have we settled on that then? So like I feel like if we're doing one in the GW style, it would probably be would it be Amon Hem or Last Alliance? Which would we think? Which should we go for?
I think Last Alliance is more likely. I
Yeah.
think Amon Hen would
Is
be
better.
my preference, though.
Yeah.
Okay. I think Last Alliance just would require a little bit more work than it perhaps might appear on face value, just like in terms of like the heroes and the way stuff currently is arranged. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would make more brand sense, especially bearing in mind what's going on in the Tolkien universe at the moment. Okay. But our suggestion for an improved one is the Onod style of sort of a much smaller scale one faction setup with like the bare bones of what you need to just put an army on the table and give it a go.
Yeah, I think that's
Pay me
kind of the
Games
inherent.
Workshop.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. So we're now moving into the fantasy realm. Are we gonna just completely ignore money for this, or are we still gonna try and make it something that might sell, or are we just purely thinking about what we would enjoy from a starter set?
Let's see what happens.
Let's go with the flow. Okay. So, who should I start with? Mare, what would you base your theme around? What would be your perfect theme for a starter kit?
Mine would be the Battle of Helm's Deep.
The whole thing with the
Yeah.
terrain.
Yeah. Well, it would certainly include, you know, a ballista, a bomb with an urukai, a ladder. Imagine
just the one ballista, not 3.
yeah, just the one.
Okay.
So I would want to essentially, I'd want it to come with a scenario booklet as well. A bit like I'm sure they made one for the old Two Towers book in a previous edition, but it would essentially have the breaching wall with both versions of the wall. It would have the ramp with a battering ram, and you'd have Aragorn and Gimli, so you can do their little thing and try and hold off the urukai. You'd have the layers of elves. You'd have all the heroes, and you'd play. I'm imagining no one scenario in that booklet would have more than say 25, 30 models, and you would just play lots of tiny scenarios as opposed to it being one giant battle, because then it's very bitty. You can just play like, you know, maybe for an hour or two to get a whole scenario done, and each scenario leading to the next, and maybe even have some kind of tree feature, so that rather than just playing out every scenario every time, you have some built-in replayability where, you know, what happens if they don't breach the deeping wall? Does Theoden ride out still? Or, you know, I suppose the other way is, because the Urukai just make it all the way in, to maybe have, I don't know, the Urukai then defending Helm's Deep against the attacking Gandalf and Eomer, and suddenly their cavalry have to try and climb the walls or something. You know, I don't know. I feel like you could play with it a lot, and no expense spared could result in a quite interesting set, if ridiculously overpriced.
And in terms of terrain, what do you think would be like a reasonable inclusion that would actually be possible?
What do you mean that would actually be possible?
A wall.
A
You-
wall,
yeah.
yeah.
You walk into
Like-
Games Workshop and there's like an IKEA-sized box on the shelf, and you go, "What's that?" And they go, "Have you seen
the
this
starter
big
set."
Helm's Deep starter set, yeah.
It comes with IKEA instructions and one of
An
those
Allen key.
little Allen keys to assemble that.
So I think the breaching wall is probably realistically the only bit, and you would just have a small section of it that gets removed, that you can replace with a piece to represent it blowing up, I guess.
Okay.
I don't think you can include the gatehouse. No, that's not what it's called. The keep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you can include any of that. I think that would be too big.
And what would the roster look like? So if we're imagining how many on each side, so how many heroes do you think you could get away with including?
I think you'd include a lot of heroes and probably not that many warriors.
Okay.
Make sure it's all character focused. You know, keep Legolas and Gimli's count throughout the whole campaign. So I think you'd probably have Legolas, Gimli, Aragorn, Theoden, the old man,
Aldor.
the child, Aldor's friend.
Harmer. No, is it Harm? No.
It's Hummer's.
Ham.
Oh, isn't it Haleth, son of Ham?
Haleth. Haleth,
Haleth,
yeah.
that's it.
Gambling.
Gambling.
Fucking hell.
Haldir. Some elves, obviously.
Eowyn.
No, not Eowyn.
Right, well, she was there.
Well, in a
that's-
deleted scene, she was there.
Oh,
Was she there in the book? She wasn't there in the book.
They're all there. They're in the caves.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did you say Eowyn?
Yeah.
Oh, I heard Arwen.
Yes, Arwen is
Arwen, yeah. Okay. Moving
She
on.
was in a deleted scene. That's what I mean.
there. Yeah, it was originally going to be Arwen turn up. Wouldn't that have been all?
Yeah, I don't think Eowyn. I don't think she's getting included. I think she's too. She's not in the battle, is she? Let's be honest.
She gets her sword out and waves it around for a bit.
Okay. And then on the other side, you've got. I really feel like you should have Saruman, even though I know he's not there. I just feel like he should have been.
Right. Okay. Now it's just mere wish listing shit that he wants.
Okay, forget that. Basically, the Uruk-hai command set.
Ballista,
bomb, ladders, battering ram. No, not the battering ram because we're not doing the gatehouse.
Does the battering ram even have stats anymore? I don't think it does.
I don't know.
It doesn't War of the Ring, where I think it was.
There you go. We'll port the Watcher stats over. I'm sure that
wasn't it a monster in War of the Ring?
Yeah, I think it had like 6 attacks or something.
I think it was quite good. Yeah.
Anyway, we move.
Okay,
cool. I'm trying to think what else was there you could include. I guess you just then have a bunch of guys with pikes and a bunch of guys with shields.
Yeah, it's quite boring for the Uruk-hai, isn't it? I feel like they need something more interesting.
Well, as Mares was ridiculous and definitely not going to happen, can I do one that's ridiculous and definitely happen?
I think that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Okay, I want a starter set where it's Ancalagon the Black, who was a dragon so large that Smaug would have been able to fit in his mouth. And I want him to take up the entire 4 foot by 4 foot table, and you play the game on his base. And then facing him on the other side, I want Irandil, Elrond's dad, on his flying ship. And I want it to be obnoxious and on one of those little flying stands. And I want it to have like massive spike at the front. And the game is just, can you fly the ship into Ancalagon's head before he blows you up with fire? And that's, I think, would be a great start set. And then
who would buy it?
And
what's wrong with them?
Zorbasorb.
Right.
And we would all enjoy that video, and it would be worth it. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic.
And the funny thing is, Games Workshop would send him one for free, so they don't make any money. That would be, I think, the one that I'd go for if money was no cost. I honestly think that if we were doing one in the style that they've come out, that I probably would just pick Amon as boring it is, because that was one we said that was sensible. But I don't really think that there's anything that I'd rather.
Yeah. How would you spice it up? Would you have like the river, or would you have like? There is a Forge World Amon Hem, isn't there? Isn't it like 300 quid or 200 quid or something?
Yeah, I'd probably use a bit of Cajun seasoning.
Oh, I really wish I'd disconnected for that one. Fuck's sake.
OT, what would you do as yours?
Paprika. I really don't know. I feel like actually, like, Battle of Five Armies done properly could be pretty bonkers. Like,
disconnecting from the call.
Don't worry, my wife will do that in a second. I think actually, like, Pelennor with a Mummock would also be quite fun. Like, I like the idea of that. Maybe 2 Mummocks. But
they could have legitimately taken out Witch King and Troll and put the Mummock. Yeah, original Pelennor box would have probably been the same price.
Yeah, it would have been a bit more niche, but it would also been a massive box. I think the other one I do is Balin's expedition to Moria just because I love that, and like what I might do is just have like him against, I don't know, a bunch of goblins and a Balrog, but do like a proper little terrain piece to represent like where he died in Moria or something. And mine I think would end up being a bit more about the terrain rather than the armies. But
I
I
don't think a
really
start set with terrain being the central.
yeah. Whereas your one with a fucking pointy ship stagging a dragon in the eye is perfectly realistic.
I reckon that people would want that if it was a 4.
Yeah, but you think a lot of things, and not many of them are accurate.
No, I think most of them.
Okay, good. Well, that's a healthy point of view to have.
I'm always right.
Okay, should we move on to news?
Oh yes, and there's lots of news, isn't there?
Well, there's some actual news.
We have Middle-earth news. Yay!
It's not brilliant, but it is something.
They're releasing all of the Army of the Dead in translucent blue plastic. I'm assuming they've gone for blue either because 1, they couldn't get it to work with green, or 2, that they're testing something they're going to do on other models, on Middle-earth models, where they don't mind if they fuck up the mold.
Well, they also don't mind if they fuck it up because who cares about the MSG community?
Yeah, it's just like, if we break the Army of the Dead mold, who cares? It'll be alright. So that's what I'm guessing.
That's the conspiracy theory.
I think they're quite cool. It's better than nothing, but I would
have rathered nothing.
Well,
I don't know if I'd rather nothing. I think there's
because now they'll say, "Oh, we gave you something." Well, no, you didn't.
Well, no, they're not going to say that, are they? Because
they're probably going to feel like they've broken the long silence. But I think it's just a cop out, as I've said.
I don't think that Games Workshop's mind works like that. I think as much as the community likes to imagine that Games Workshop sits Scrooge McDuck style in their bathtub of gold, counting money, going, ha ha ha, the Middle-earth community have got their one release for the year. I think that what's more likely is that their plans are several years in advance in terms of working, and that this is just something they've done as a tester and gone, we might as well release it. So I'd rather that than them not release it.
Fair enough.
I'd have rathered some dice.
Yeah.
Fucking love dice.
Yeah, we all need more dice. That is the one thing that all of us need more of.
I would actually pay a quite ridiculous amount of money for a really nice Khazad-dûm dice set. Like, if they did it well, it would be disgusting.
Cool.
Is there any other news?
Yes, lots. Have you not been paying attention?
No.
Oh, let me...
Hide my head in the sand and hope the world's got better.
Let me enlighten you. There's new... Terminators Space Marines, that's right.
Are there?
Yeah. The new Deathwing Knights for the Dark Angels, or the Dangles as we call them now. They're the same as the ones that they released 2 months ago, but they now have a dressing gown and a shield.
Right.
There's also a new Asmodee model. This is the second Asmodee model that's been released since we've been in the hobby.
Who is Asmodee?
He's a dangle.
You what?
He's a dangle.
He
He
dangles from things.
He's a follower of Lionel Johnson.
Aren't we all, in our own special way?
In our hearts. There's big Hunchback of Notre Dame. He's fun, isn't he?
Or who are you talking about now?
The guy who you posted a picture of in chat going, we could turn this guy into the Goblin King.
Oh, yeah, he's super cool. The flesh eater king thing.
Except he's like 3 times bigger than the Goblin King. But other than that,
yeah. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But he's cool.
There's also lots of other flesh eater. Flesh
eater courts, yeah.
Fucking flesh eater courts. Yes, they've released some with swords now. That's literally the difference.
They get weapons. Brilliant.
The old ones just ran around with their hands. Now they run around with swords.
Pay us 50 quid and fuck off.
If you don't like swords, you can give them axes instead. They
Pierce
also
is right. +1 strength.
They also released some on really big bats, and the lore is that they think that they're riding Pegasus. The bats are really derpy looking. I kind of like.
Do the bats carry swords?
They look a bit like if Pixar was designing war.
Okay.
No, the bats don't have swords. They then have a Vargulf.
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
I've got a Vargulf.
Yeah, it's
They're pretty
You
cool.
should see a doctor.
It's got a rash. The only way of describing it. I'll put a picture on screen for people. There's also an abhorrent cardinal, which is a flesh eater dressed up as the Pope.
Yeah, that's pretty abhorrent.
And a royal decapitator, which is a flesh eater dressed up as an executioner.
Great.
Oh, that was fun, wasn't it? We keep going.
No, I'm upset we started.
I suggest you use the whole thing, AT.
Okay, I'm glad I can't see any of it.
You just have to live through my description until you watch the video.
Yeah.
They're releasing.
Watch the video.
They're releasing a new Warhammer Underworld band called Dagger Stab Lads.
How do they sleep at night? How do they leave their job being like, yes?
Oh, I love the Stab Lads. They're releasing more Assault Marines.
Are they the shoot lads?
No, they're Space Marines.
Oh.
Imagine the Space Marines they released last year, but now they have a turbine strapped to their back, and that's the Assault Marines.
Great.
They're releasing a new buggy for Necromunda. Wow. There's a new kill team. You can.
It's the Night Lords, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, no one cares.
Oh, okay.
Oof.
Night Lords.
That was quick.
Mary is a true kill team fan.
Yeah, no one cares.
And then finally, there is the Bone Dragon.
Oh god.
Getting a bit of an echo from someone.
I think it might be me.
Have you seen the Bone Dragon?
Obviously not.
I think
I get all my news from reputable sources such as the Hobby Breakfast Show.
Well, this is where you can learn about the Bone Dragon from. I'm going to post the Bone Dragon to chat because I want to see what you guys think of this model. It's been divisive, I think would be fair to say. I look forward to editing out all of your audio so there's no echo. That's going to be fun.
It looks like a dinosaur. Why is it being divisive?
Some people really like it, some people really don't.
I'm very ambivalent about it.
Good. That's the kind of chat that we wanted.
It looks like it's got a lot of unnecessary detail.
I think it looks dumb as hell.
Yeah, that was my takeaway. I think it looks good until, well, okay, good's an exaggeration. If you took off the little car that he's driving on top, which I don't know how it's there, because it doesn't really seem to be attached in a reasonable manner. The actual Bone Dragon I thought was fine until you got to the head, just suddenly crocodile. Didn't like that. And why does the crocodile have a skull in the skull? What's that about? Anyway, yes. Did you enjoy all of those reveals?
Did I?
Yeah, I'm not interested in Mayor's opinion, only yours.
Okay. I mean, I'm glad that I got them described to me rather than witnessing them firsthand. I think that probably makes it easier to enjoy.
Oh, I think it's kind of sad that you didn't enjoy that.
Were you expecting me to?
I was hoping you would, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Mayor, what did you think?
I don't think any of those are releases I'm interested in remotely.
Oh.
Wow.
What would you like GW to release? What would make you happy?
Oh, that's a great question. Last Alliance starter set. With a
These
book. Actually, I wouldn't even buy it. So why would I care about that?
Yeah, I was thinking something more aimed at you, but that's very
Aimed at
very
me
unselfish to
specifically.
think of other people.
Um,
If GW could release one product tomorrow that would suit you, what would they release?
oh, release something tomorrow.
Or the day after. I'm not pushy.
Oh God, the pressure's real.
Onod,
I would
what-
like a Space Marine Lieutenant.
Right. I think you need to dream a little bigger.
That's too realistic.
That was shit.
um, a new Urukai Scout set.
But you don't like scouts.
Wow.
You sold yours.
I did sell them because I painted them like shit.
So the one thing you want is one of the better looking plastic Middle Earth kits to be replaced with another plastic kit.
I don't know. The pressure's too much. What would I pick? Can it be any game?
Yeah, anything.
GW.
Dream as big as you want.
Oh my God, that's insane.
Well,
okay.
I mean, Onod said a Space Marine Lieutenant, which I think is like the shittest answer possible. So you can't really do much worse.
I would like a Shatterpoint style game for Lord of the Rings.
Oh fuck! So he wants a whole new game system.
Well, you said dream big.
Yeah. Wow, huge.
More likely to happen is that Games Workshop lose the license, and then that's what Atomic Mass Games do.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be against that.
You were against it like one episode ago.
What, Shatterpoint?
No, against the Lord of the Rings thing. We had this conversation like 2 podcasts ago, and you were like, "No, I'm not."
Well, you'll just have to find the clip.
I don't know if I'd want to play a different Lord of the Rings game, to be honest. Like,
no, we've committed too hard to.
I would. If Games Workshop could release any miniature, what would you choose, OT? So we didn't get yours.
So a single miniature.
Just one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tricky. You know that big troll thing with the catapult on its back from the Hobbit?
Yeah, I have to make with it.
So not that.
Would you like the wereworms?
Oh, mounted Gilgalad, an actual mounted Gilgalad. I think that's fucking realistic, and I think that's a really good idea, and I think people would buy it.
What a nerd.
Okay, sorry.
Why would anyone want that?
I think they should release a more detailed version of Smaug.
In plastic.
In plastic.
They charge the same amount for it.
Well, I mean, to make money off the thing, the sprue, they'd have to cost like £1,000.
Don't pass any of the savings on to the consumer.
Yeah, but I think mounted Gilgalad or an updated Balin, either of those would be really nice for me.
An updated Balin would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and actually maybe some like Balin expeditionary models to come with him, but I don't know if that's a good idea or not because there's already the Ranger sculpt, which is pretty cool. Anyway, I think that will do.
Good.
Aldi.
Well, that's another one down.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Apologies, it was so bad.
Apologies for that.
Good that it ended up being such a short episode, though. Only 15 minutes this week.